Coming up on the Paper Talk today, we've got some transfer rumours to get our teeth into. Can United go again in the transfer window when it comes to these big money signings, or do we need to have a different approach? We've been linked with a Portuguese midfielder who would cost a lot of money to get. Will he be worth it? Let's check it out. Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm outside Old Trafford and, yep, it's barbecue weather again, so make sure you enjoy it. You are enjoying all the perfect Mancunian weather. If you're not doing already, hit like, share and subscribe as well. We want to get to 750,000 subscribers by the end of the season. With your support, yes, we can get there. Quite a few stories doing the rounds this morning. Some are sort of following on from what I touched on yesterday. In my news yesterday, I mentioned the fact that Erik ten Hag had sort of downplayed the fact we'd conceded 31 shots against Brentford. He sort of was asked if it was a concern, and he said no. A lot of papers, fans even, have picked up on this and saying, Erik, what are you on about? And I saw a stat that I think United are I think we've conceded around the third highest amount of shots across Europe's top 5 leagues. I think that's actually the same in the Premier League as well. I think we're just behind Luton and Sheffield United, I think, in terms of the amount of shots we've conceded, an average of around 17.2, I think it is, per game, which is just ridiculous, if we're being brutally honest. And I mentioned this yesterday, if you're constantly conceding shots, you've not got as much possession as you should have. You're under the cosh a little bit, and also you're not attacking the other end of the pitch like you should be. And United have had a problem with both conceding goals and scoring goals this season. We've got a net zero, as they like to say, goal difference, which going into April to have a 0 goal difference at Manchester United, I've never known that before. I mean, I find it quite astounding now. I'm hoping, and I said this yesterday, but as I said earlier, it's still a story doing the rounds, that the manager is saying one thing publicly about how it isn't a concern, and behind closed doors on the training ground and in the office is having words. Because I cannot imagine that he's happy with this and he's okay with this. If you look at the way Ajax used to play, you look at this, even last season, a lot of the games we had, and look at the games this season, I mean, this doesn't feel like any sort of tactic a manager should be employing or should be happy with. So I'd be very, very surprised if Erik ten Hag is unconcerned, as he said, with what is going on. But at the moment, we're not hearing any noises to think otherwise, and we're not seeing any changes to think otherwise. Listen, I have backed this manager. I continue to back this manager, but I fear he's on borrowed time. I really do. And that's not me saying we should get rid of him. That's just how I think Ineos will be looking at it, because you cannot keep dropping points. You cannot keep conceding shots. You cannot keep having football matches, which are a hard watch. If you're Dave Brailsford or you're Jim Ratcliffe and you're watching this, you're thinking this is hard work, and still have faith in this manager. So I think he needs to turn it around sooner rather than later. He's got 2 great opportunities this week with Chelsea and Liverpool, who've just gone top of the league, of course, to make matters worse. So there's an opportunity there to turn it around. But the flip side to that, if you lose both those games, you are in serious, serious trouble. And I don't know if even the FA Cup could, if we win that, of course, save him. Get involved in the chat and the comments and let us know what you think. There's a couple of transfer stories that I want to get into. They've been doing the rounds, but they popped up again. I saw this in the evening news via the Mirror, via Ojos or something, a Portuguese publication, regarding Joao Neves. Looks like Manchester United have some concrete interest in him, but they're going to face competition from Liverpool, I've just mentioned, of course. Yet Neves has been touted as a £100 million signing. Very, very talented young midfielder. I think he's 19 years old. The issue you've got with that is £100 million. We're meant to be moving into this new system, this new transfer approach, where we're not going to spend huge amounts of money on players like we used to. Obviously, we've spent big in the past on the likes of Harry Maguire, Paul Pogba, Antony, Romelu Lukaku. We've always spent big, even post Sir Alex Ferguson. In fact, more so post Sir Alex Ferguson. We've had some of those transfers which have been amongst the biggest in the world. However, I still feel Ineos might have to swallow their pride a little bit and make one of these type of signings. I just worry, and I've said this before, I don't want to keep going out and spending loads of money, but if you look at the likes of Arsenal, who spent 100 million on Declan Rice, I think it was 110 million or a bit more, might have been towards 120 million. You look at Liverpool, what they spent on Darwin Núñez. You look at Manchester City, what they spent on Jack Grealish. Are you going to catch all these teams if you steadfastly refuse to pay big bucks for at least one player? I don't know. Get involved in the comments and the chat. Is Neves that guy? Is he worth it? Should we be thinking, okay, let's concentrate on the 50, 60 million pound players, but we can have one who we think is worth it, especially if he's a 19-year-old who could have a long-term future and maybe form a sort of midfield partnership with Kobbie Mainoo that could come to dominate the Premier League. And I know that sounds a little bit like hyperbole, but those two players, two of the most talented teenagers in the world, both playing for Manchester United. What would that say? Let me know what you think. On the flip side to it, Christian Eriksen could be out the door. I think this has been picked up by a few papers, including the Evening News, saying that Eriksen might be heading out the door. Wouldn't surprise me, to be honest with you. He's way down the pecking order. Now, when he came in, I think a lot of people were surprised just how important he became to Manchester United. It looked like when we got him from Brentford on this free transfer that he was going to be... I think it was a free transfer. He'd been at Brentford, obviously, but then he was a free transfer. People looked thinking, okay, he's probably going to be a fringe player. Someone will come in for certain games. He became vital very quickly. He became an integral part of Erik ten Hag's team. Then he got that injury, didn't he? From Andy Carroll when we played Reading, I think it was, in the FA Cup. Disgusting injury. Andy Carroll should have been off the pitch well before he injured Christian Eriksen. And he's never quite got going again. He's had some good games since then, but he's never quite been as integral to the first team as he was pre that injury. And it's a shame because he's a lovely player to watch at Christian Eriksen. The way he sort of moves the ball around, some of the passes he picks out, he can dictate the pace of the game. I just think he's a joy to watch. And I've been very surprised. I was pleasantly surprised how good he was. I thought he was in his decline. Yeah, I thought United in that first season, he was playing some of the best football I've seen him play. Not watched loads of him, but I've seen enough of him. I know at Spurs, people go, Jay, what you on about Spurs? He had a season where he had like 30 goal involvements, whatever. I just think to watch and the performances he's put in, it was like 7 and 8 out of 10 pretty much every week. This season, though, that's not a word. This season, however, the emergence of Kobbie Mainoo, the signing of Mason Mount, who's now come back from injury, of course, and the goals of Scott McTominay, which has made him more important to Erik ten Hag. I've seen Christian Eriksen way down that pecking order. He's not even getting off the bench sometimes now, which last season was unheard of. So I wouldn't be surprised if he did move on. He's obviously, I think he's 32, I want to say, maybe a little bit older. So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, get involved in the chat in the comments. I can't remember if it's 32 or 33. Either way, he's in his 30s. I don't see him sort of changing things very quickly where he becomes like this guy that the manager turns to. Now, a new manager might come in the summer, but is he going to turn to Christian Eriksen when you've got the players that I've already mentioned? Bruno's pretty undroppable. Even if Casemiro goes, if Casemiro's not played that much this season, even that I don't think is going to be enough for Christian Eriksen to come in because he's a completely different type of player. And then you've got us being linked with the likes of Neves, maybe one or two other midfielders that we've been linked with as well. I don't know. It'd be a shame, but I think Christian Eriksen might end up moving on because he's going to want to spend the last perhaps 2-3 years of his career sat on the bench at Old Trafford. I don't think so. It'd be very surprised if he does. Another transfer story I've seen doing the rounds. I saw this on Sky Sports paper roundup. I think this might have come originally from the Sun. # don't buy the Sun. But we've seen it elsewhere, and we've certainly seen it over the last 18 months or so, is this link with Jeremie Frimpong from Bayer Leverkusen. Bayer Leverkusen have all but wrapped up the Bundesliga, haven't they? Lately, which is remarkable, really. Harry Kane, I think, everyone expected him to go to Bayern Munich, who've won the Bundesliga every year since about, is it 2013 or something, or whatever it is. And now this season, it doesn't look like they're going to do it. They lost at the weekend. I think they lost to Dortmund, did they, at the weekend? Yeah, I think it was 2-0. And Bayer Leverkusen turned it around. They were losing with like 5 minutes to go, 1-0, and they turned it around to 2-1. Forgive me, I've forgotten who they were playing, but they turned it around. So they're top of the Bundesliga with a healthy cushion. Doesn't look like Bayern Munich are going to win the Bundesliga. It looks like it's going to be Bayer Leverkusen. Is Jeremie Frimpong going to stay there, though? Xabi Alonso's committed his future to Leverkusen. Frimpong, I think he's 23 years old. He's been linked with a move away. He's been linked with a move to Manchester United. Heavily linked with us. I wouldn't be surprised if he made the move to Old Trafford in the summer. I will say this, though. I think other areas are more important. Listen, Aaron Wan-Bissaka had a bit of a stinker at the weekend, but I think Dalot and Aaron Wan-Bissaka are decent options. I think we've got more pressing issues at left-back, where we've just got this constant absence of everyone. Hence the reason Wan-Bissaka was playing at left-back and he ain't at left-back against Brentford. So, let me know what you think. Do you think we should go all out for Frimpong? Do you think he'll come? Do you think we'll be able to get him? Do you think that the fact that Xabi Alonso's pledged his future to Bayer Leverkusen may have some bearing on Jeremie Frimpong? He may not want to come back to England. Obviously, he started off in Manchester, started off at City, I believe. So he could end up coming back. Let's not judge him in the same way we've judged Jadon Sancho. Hopefully it'll be different. I'm going to leave it there. Make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. I'm going to be back later on with the Paddock podcast. Me, Ronaldo Brown, and a special guest. I'll be Jay Motty. This has been the Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.